Okay, ladies, today we're going to be talking about a very, very, very interesting and critical conversation as it relates to singlehood and singleness. But the very interesting thing about today's conversation is it's applicable to all young people, whether or not you're single. It's something that anyone who is young will find beneficial, whether or not you're single, which is why I wanted us to record this conversation so that after this call, you can feel free to share with people in your life who you think will find this conversation beneficial. Last month, we started to talk about maximizing singlehood. Please, I'm going to need you guys to be in the chat regularly. That's the only way I can communicate. We're not using the platform that we usually use, so I can't see your faces, and that sucks. But I'm ready to make that trade-off this one time. So I need you guys to be in the comment section for me. If my audio goes off or my video goes off or anything, people are struggling to access the link, please let me know so that I can take action immediately, okay? Awesome. So last week we started to talk about maximizing singlehood, and we had started asking a few prompt questions around purpose, around your passions, what drives you, around the things that you know that the Lord has asked you to do with your single season and whether or not you were actively walking in that season. Today's conversation is going to be a continuum from what we started to discuss last time. Even though it's a standalone conversation, I feel like the Lord has been reiterating this to me in my spirit, and we're going to do it today. We're going to be talking about 7 core areas to build capacity for as a single person, but even as just a young person who is seeking success in life. 7 core areas that you need to build capacity for. I sound like a broken record at this point, but my message is always the same. Whenever the Lord has you in a waiting season, it is for a reason. And it's because there are things He wants you to develop. There are areas of growth. There are growth gaps, there are knowledge gaps that He wants you to cover in with the waiting season. And so the fastest way to cut short your waiting season time, I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing this, but I can't stop saying it because it's the truth. The fastest way to cut short your waiting season time is really to identify and discern by the Spirit of God what He's trying to teach you, why He has you in that season, what He wants you to learn. If you can turn that around, you will be on your way out of any waiting season, not just with respect to trusting God for a spouse, even though that's what this platform focuses on, but this principle is a general principle. So today we're going to be talking about 7 core areas to build capacity in for life and success as, first of all, a young person, then as a single woman, because we have single women on this call. Like I said earlier, I want us to be in touch in the chat box as we progress. Now, when we talk about getting married, it is really partnership, right? So you find someone you want to enter into a lifelong partnership with. But the success of that partnership, or I should say your ability to strike a good deal when it comes to selecting that partner, is very largely dependent on how much of your life you have figured out. This is very important. Don't forget it. It's very dependent on how much of your life you have organized. And the reason why this is important is because it influences the choice that you make with respect to your partnership. It's a tragedy when people don't hit that minimum threshold of self-awareness before getting into the partnership. Because what happens is after you get into a partnership and you start to outgrow that mental state that you were in, you're going to have issues. You're going to have issues because you might realize that the partner that you have picked wasn't very suited to meet all of you, wasn't very suited to match all of you. They probably were suited to match the portion of you that you had uncovered as at the time when you made the decision. And don't get me wrong, we'll constantly be growing, we'll constantly be evolving. We'll never get to a point where we've hit the ceiling on evolution. However, if you listened carefully, you'll notice that I used the word minimum threshold. So you have to meet like a certain minimum threshold where you may not know the details, the complete specific details of your life, but you have a very clear sense of what your life is about and where you are going in life. And that informs the decision that you make with respect to selecting the partnership. So it's so much better if you're invested in organizing your life, in discovering yourself, because marriage is going to bring additional responsibilities and demands that will overwhelm you if there is chaos in your life. If there is chaos in your life. So, like I said, it doesn't mean you will know everything. It just means, look, you have a very strong sense of what things should look like and you're actively walking in that direction. So let's talk about core area number one, or capacity number one, spiritual capacity. Those of you who know me know that me and spiritual growth as a foundation of your life were 5 and 6. And I'm not just saying it as a cliche. I always give my reasons. You know, first of all, we've established that as God's children, we're created first for fellowship and intimacy with God. Then, out of that overflow comes intimacy with a physical partner. We have to first be intimate with God. We have to first know God. Then we even have something to give other people. We have something to give our partners. With this season of your life, first as a young person and as a single person, one of the core capacities you need to be building is spiritual capacity. Not just because marriage is a spiritual business and is spiritual warfare, in case you didn't know, but because you have to fulfill the primary purpose for which God created you, which is fellowship. That's the primary reason for which the redemption story came into place, where Jesus went to the cross to redeem us from sin so that he could repair the rift that existed between us and God as a result of the fall of Adam and the gap that it created between us and God. God sent his son Jesus to restore that rift because he is very interested in fellowship and communion with God, with us, excuse me. And please don't get tired of hearing this line. As long as you identify as a Christian, this is the foundation of everything that you do and represent as a Christian. Fellowship with God, fellowship with God, fellowship with God. We are all created with that vacuum that only fellowship with God can fill, only koinonia with God can fill. And you've often heard me say this is the reason why there's still a lot of unexplainable happiness in extremely successful people who don't know God. And as an aside, people often say, oh, the richest people in the world, they're not even Christians. That's good. That's true. They might have cracked an area of life that human knowledge can crack. Wealth, prosperity, influence, they crack it because God has given humans the ability to crack that thing. But you see this void that only fellowship and spirituality can fill, they can't crack it because it takes God to fill that void. And as long as they can't crack it, there would always be a gap in their lives in some way or the other. That's why you see that some of them are still suicidal. Rich people are still suicidal. They're still unhappy. They're still unfulfilled. They keep chasing the next big thing and they keep realizing that the next big thing is not bringing them the satisfaction and the fulfillment that they thought it would. Not all rich people, okay? I'm not making a generalized statement here, but I'm saying a lot of rich people. So you've got to realize that marriage, first of all, is spiritual warfare, and I established that. And if you go in without a spiritual reserve, without a spiritual altar, without a spiritual covering, you're setting yourself up for much more warfare than you can imagine. You need to realize that the enemy is actively after kingdom marriages, kingdom homes, families. And if you make yourself an easy prey, what do I mean by an easy prey? You don't have momentum. You don't have spiritual momentum. You don't have an altar. It's a problem. And the reason why I'm emphasizing this, particularly for singles, is with marriage comes increased responsibilities. And with increased responsibilities comes more pressure on your time. And when more pressure comes on your time, it's much harder to create and establish a routine time with the Lord, or retain time of fellowship with the Lord. It's much harder. It's much harder. Now is the time. Now that you're single is the time. So take the time to get in the habit of consistently spending time with God. And let me pause for a moment to speak to my church folks, my Christian brethren. At every point in time in your life, you have to distinguish between your service to God and your personal walk with the Lord. You need to distinguish between your corporate fellowship with the Lord, as in church, as in what we're doing now. You have to distinguish between that and your personal time with the Lord. It's great to fellowship with other brethren. It's great to have strong sisterhood communities such as this one that allows you, connect with other women and draw closer to God. But at the end of the day, though, it shouldn't take the place of your personal relationship with God. This should be the icing on the cake, not the cake itself. You need to have the cake first before you start decorating it with icing. Your priorities are grossly misplaced if you start doubling down on the icing without having any substance, no cake, just icing. So you need to have that substance first. Make time to just sit with yourself and God. Sometimes I find that a lot of us are afraid to sit alone with God because we're scared. We're scared of what will come up, what God will start highlighting to us. We're scared of the things God will start challenging in us. We're scared of what He will start convicting us of. And because of that, we're constantly trying to hide in the crowd with other people who are calling on God. We're often trying to hide in the crowd with other people who are worshiping Jesus, but we won't do it on our own because we're not comfortable with the challenges, how God challenges our fleshly nature. We're not comfortable with the truth that could come up in our spirits as a result of spending alone time with God. Because when you start spending time with God, the Holy Spirit has the opportunity to start convicting you of sin, to start highlighting character flaws that need to go, to start pointing out things. It starts making demands of you. And because sometimes we're uncomfortable, we're not sure of whether we can handle it. And because of that, we hide in the midst of the crowd. We say we're Christians, and the only proof of it is that we go to church on Sundays or that we belong to Christian fellowships and communities. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong in belonging to Christian fellowships and communities, okay? We just need to not make that a priority. We need to have a personal walk with God first. Then we can have those additional things. Are you guys with me? Put some things for me in the comments. I want to hear back from you. Are you guys tracking? Does what I'm saying make sense? Are you guys understanding everything I'm saying? Say something to me in the comments so that I know that we're still on track. Can someone say something to me in the comments? We're talking about building spiritual capacity. Not private chats, friends. Put it in the comments. Okay, Fikari says absolutely. Gold says I'm tracking. Yes, I'm following. Okay, apparently I don't actually know why I'm not seeing anything in the comments. I'm only seeing in the private chats, but it's okay. That's fine. Maybe it's just the nature of. Okay, Kateko says yes, I'm following. Thank you, ladies, for your feedback. Okay. Let's move on. The second major capacity that you need to build for life and success as a single, as a Christian, as a young person is emotional capacity. And this is one area where we don't really talk about in the church. The church doesn't really talk about the emotional state of Christians. And this is not to judge. This is just to say, this is a reason why we need to be having, it's more crucial to have this conversation now. It's very important, my sisters, that we develop emotional intelligence. I'm so sorry about your network, Elo. I hope that you get to figure it out. Okay? So it's very important that we develop emotional intelligence as Christian women, as young people, It is a core capacity area. And I'm going to feed this into another capacity that is crucial for us to build, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Now that you're single, it's time to deal with your weaknesses and your character issues. And it's not easy. These are not the kinds of things that we want to hear about often or that we want to talk about often because these conversations are uncomfortable. But here's the thing that you always need to remember. Marriage will amplify your weaknesses, period. You've heard it so many times. It sounds like a cliche. Don't forget, this is the truth. If you are still very irrational, you still have temper issues that you're not addressing, if you're still very petty, if you nag a lot, if you keep malice and you enjoy keeping malice, you enjoy unforgiveness, you enjoy holding things in your heart against people, you enjoy giving people the silent treatment. When you're upset, you silence yourself from people, you just pull away, you don't explain anything, you're like, oh, I only give people one chance to hurt me, just one. After that, that's it, you're out of my life. If you're still very fragile emotionally, then you might need to start doing things very differently. You need to begin to actively build emotional capacity, resilience, know what it means to keep pushing through even when you don't feel like it. All of that happens at an emotional level. It's particularly important that we talk about this on this call because I believe that we have only women on this call, and women are interesting creatures. We are very emotional. Men are very logical. Women are very emotional. What that means is, look, sometimes the best of us still falls for that emotional trap. We process a lot of things emotionally. We don't know how to separate facts and truth from emotions. And what I say to when I say to all, I'm also speaking to myself. We're a work in progress, and it's not a bad thing, okay? The Creator knows why He made us that way, and it does come in handy in other areas like nurturing, like caring, and cultivating. We need that emotional aspect of us to do it. However, we need to be able to draw a firm line. We need to be able to draw a firm line between when we need that anointing, that emotional anointing, and when we don't. And so as women, we have to develop emotional intelligence. You have to learn to manage your emotions. And I want to refer you to the story of Abigail and Nabal. That is a very classic scenario of emotional intelligence and management. And some of you know that story. In fact, I've done a video about it on my YouTube, and some of you have watched that video. If you haven't, go watch it on my YouTube channel. It will bless you. But the Bible starts to talk about this very foolish man called Nabal, who offended David. Okay, this is a very executive summary. And his wife, Abigail, who was a woman of impeccable emotional capacity and capability, she stepped in to save the day by speaking the right words, by the right body language, by taking the right steps to douse the anger of David. Because if she hadn't done that, it could have led to her death, the death of her husband, and her entire household. Sometimes emotional intelligence is a type of prophetic warfare and intercession. It's shocking because we think that prophetic warfare or spiritual warfare is just prayers, and prayers are an important part of spiritual warfare. They're very important, but that's not the only aspect of it. Sometimes what you need to wage spiritual warfare is emotional intelligence. Sometimes what you need to prophetically intercede to preserve your life, your family, your job, your name is emotional intelligence. That's why I said this is not very talked about. We don't see the link between this and spirituality. But if you read your Bible, it's there. It's there. You see that through the words of one woman, through the actions of one woman, through one woman's ability to manage a situation intelligently, you see that she pushes back the hand of death over her household. Can you believe it? That you literally push back the hand of death over your household by leveraging emotional intelligence as a type of prophetic warfare. In the same vein, many women have brought ruin, disaster, destruction to their lives, not just in a relational or in a relationship context, but even in life in general. Many women have invited destruction because of their inability to manage their emotions. You must learn, and that's why it's called that's why I called it a capacity. It means that you can grow it. We're not born with it. It means that you have to put in the work to become that way. But we must learn to be able to manage our emotions. We must learn to not always respond by how we feel. It lands a lot of us in trouble. It has landed a lot of us in trouble. And that's why we have to continuously develop that capacity. We have to build emotional intelligence. And let me say this, I grew up in Nigeria. I am a Nigerian. And I grew up in a typical African home. And some of the things that we normalized, some of the things that we accepted in African homes growing up as children is problematic, because it's raising a generation of girls who don't know how to be emotionally intelligent. So I'll give an example. Some of us grew up in a household where we heard our parents shouting all the time. When mommy or daddy was upset, how they convey that to you is through shouting. For some of us, we endured some physical battery. There's nothing wrong with beating children, spanking children at a stage of life to instill discipline. But some of us were battered, as in our parents took out their emotional frustration on us through beating. It wasn't all of us, but it happened to a lot of us. And what that does to us, apart from inflicting trauma and some physical bodily injuries on us, is it trains us to believe that that's the only way to express anger towards our children or towards people that we have some sort of power over. So in Africa, of course, parents have undisputed power over children. Of course, parents are the ultimate in a household. And when you hear your parents always shouting as a way of demonstrating anger or displeasure, or demonstrating that they're unhappy about something, you pick it up subconsciously. And even though some of us hated when that was done to us, we can't believe ourselves when we started doing that to other people. And so we go to the workplace and we find ourselves yelling. We're shouting to make a point. In our relationships with friends, we often find ourselves raising our voices to communicate a point. So you've got to realize that some of the things that we normalized or that we experienced as people who grew up in third world countries, and maybe it's applicable to first world countries. I can't speak for them because I didn't grow up there, and I'm not from a first world country, but I can speak for Africa, Nigeria specifically. We saw a lot of these things. But the idea behind building capacity is we begin to reschool ourselves first by mirroring our behavior through the Word of God. This is very crucial. We start to mirror our behavior through the Word of God to see whether what we're used to is actually what is good for us, or if it's just that we're used to it and then we've accepted it. So emotional intelligence, emotional mastery and management is something that we need to work on. Some of us need to deal with past trauma, okay? Some of us need to deal with the things that we've internalized and we've normalized because it happened to us while I was growing up. And now, subconsciously, we're doing it to other people. No wonder they say hurt people hurt people. That's the cycle of pain that is perpetuated when we tolerate or we commonize bad behavior, bad emotional behavior. And a lot of us have had to deal with that. So emotional capacity, character problems, some of us are picking up character weaknesses that were modeled to us as children. We don't even know it. We think that's the way we naturally are, but listen, I often say this quote about personality being nature and nurture. And I first read it in a book by a very powerful author whose name I can't remember now. He says personality is both nature and nurture. So There's a part of you that you're naturally born with, but then there's a part of you that you internalize just because you saw it modeled to you whilst you're growing up. And for errors like that, you now have to nurture better character for yourself in those areas because the right thing wasn't modeled to you. So you're not going to have to put in the work to nurture that aspect of you to grow better character. So far, are we tracking? So far, are we tracking? Put it for me in the chat box. Give me some feedback in the chat box. So far, are we together? Okay. I'm seeing you guys saying I'm following. Okay, great. Nice. Good to hear. So the next area of capacity we have to build and grow. Okay, thank you, Nkateko. Thank you, Millicent, for your feedback. All right. The next area of capacity we have to grow. Are you guys ready? Drum rolls. Financial capacity. Financial capacity. Also, sort of a taboo topic amongst Christians. Part of the reasons why this is taboo, and I'm going to break some tables today, is because we are schooled as Christians to believe that God is supposed to provide every single need for us. The danger of faulty, half-baked truths and mindsets like that is we're training a whole generation of people to be financially careless and to be financially illiterate. Because when we teach people that God will take care of every single financial need that we have, what that is doing to us is it's giving us permission to mismanage money. Precious, the third point we're talking about is financial capacity. And this is a very crucial subject. I want us to listen closely, especially because as women, we are often not thought enough about money because society kind of believes that, providing, making money is usually the man's role. The woman is not really supposed to do that. I haven't found any biblical precedents for that, so I don't adopt that. The Bible tells us about the Proverbs 31 woman, rich woman, very wealthy woman. She would examine a field and purchase it, aka real estate. She was into buying and developing landed properties. Very wealthy woman. The Bible talks about the Queen of Sheba who brought gifts to King Solomon. Very powerful and wealthy woman. So the Bible talks about the women who funded Jesus's ministry, and women did fund his ministry. The Susanna, Priscilla, the women who supported Jesus's ministry were women. So financial capacity is a conversation that is for women too. We can grow financial capacity, but it starts first with realizing that financial prowess, money requires careful stewardship. We have to start educating ourselves about finances. We have to start reading the right books. We can start from the Bible, but we can also read other books. We can listen to resources, podcast videos that educate us about money management. And I'm saying this because I used to be a very bad money manager. I used to spend as I was earning. I spent as I earned, and I justified it. Sometimes I use those monies to do good things, give to people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there was chaos in it. There was chaos. It's possible to have financial intelligence where you create a budget that you live on, and in that budget you can include, philanthropical deeds and charity work, but at the end of the day, it's plugged into a budget. You don't just get money today and you just wake up and you decide, there's someone I feel like dashing money. Let me dash them money. Except you've made so much money that you have a lot of excess. then that's okay. You don't have to think twice about it. But for a lot of us, we're going to need to know how to manage money. We have to know how to budget. We have to know how to save money. We have to know how to invest to grow our money and build wealth. The first step is to stop being impulsive with money. Stop being impulsive with money. Okay, some of us have itchy palms the moment we get money in our hands, and hands here are figurative, they're not literal. But the moment money comes into our hands or into our bank account, automatically we're conditioned either by what we've seen, by what we've heard, by what is modeled to us. We're automatically conditioned to think about what to spend it on. And oftentimes those things are trivial. Those things are not really needs. We spend them on wants. Then, we continue to perpetrate this behavior, and we wonder why we're not breaking away from generational poverty. We wonder why we're not, coming into the level of abundance that the Bible has promised us. Money has to be managed carefully. And this is not a money seminar. Maybe one day we'll get to talk more about it, because a lot of God's girls are broke, and it shouldn't be so. God didn't intend for us to be broke. And some of you might be like, oh, I'm not earning enough. That's probably why I don't have savings. That's why I can't live on a budget. Listen, there's always a way out. There's probably somebody who's earning way less than you that is managing their money so much better. The deal is, you shouldn't be spending everything you earn. You should be putting away at least 10% in savings and investments, and you should be living on a budget. Don't just, when people ask you for money, if you want to give them, that's great, but do include in the budget. So let's say someone asks you for money in October. You should ideally say, okay, I'm going to add you my November, I'm going to add you my November budget. By then I'll be able to accommodate that expense. So when you hit the limit of the budget that you've created for a month, stop spending. Consider the money to not be your money. This is an area of capacity that you have to build if you want to be successful in life and in marriage. Okay? Because it's very important that you are not a waster. There's something called wasting. The women who waste their spouse's money, the women who waste the funds for their household. If you keep leaking out excess cash, you keep leaking out money, you're never going to have enough money to meet the needs of yourself and your household. So you have to be financially intelligent. Jesus hated waste. When he fed the crowd with the loaves of bread, the 5 loaves of bread and 3 fishes, he actually did ask his disciples to go around and pick up the pieces. I often asked myself, what does Jesus need the remnant for? What the crumbs and what does he need it for? Is he actually going to eat it? But I saw that he was teaching us a lesson. You have to manage resources carefully. Just because you receive in abundance doesn't mean you should waste it. Just because Jesus had the ability to pray and multiply bread and ask the Father to give him that, just because he had the ability to do that didn't mean he should waste. And he could feed the whole world if he wanted to. He had the power to make that happen, but he also had the wisdom to be resourceful with resources. So that's very important. Okay, we're going to move on now. The next capacity you need to build as a single and as a young person is relational capacity. This is very important. Now that you're single, is the time to start building a network of like-minded associations. Very important, very intentionally. You have to start expanding your network to include the people who will be beneficial to you on your journey. Whether what they supply is in the professional capacity, in the personal capacity, in the spiritual capacity, have that network, have that strong network. Now is the time to start practicing and learning how to get along with people, how to manage relationships, how to build relationships, how to preserve relationships. When you get married, you're going to realize that marriage is really a game of managing relationships. You're going to be you're going to have to manage your relationship with your spouse continuously. Okay, when they annoy you, when they make stupid mistakes, you're going to have to manage that relationship. You're going to have to know how to get along with them in spite of what's going on in life. And it's a capacity area that is often underlooked. We don't see how it impacts. So oftentimes we think every other person is a problem, and we think that when it comes to our spouse, of course we're going to relate with them because we love them and we have these butterflies in our stomach about them. But we're going to get a rude awakening as time progresses and the butterflies are no longer there. Then you see that love is hard work. It's no more riding on the temporary waves of, adrenaline, dopamine, and all the leans. You see that it's a lot of hard work. Part of what helps you put in the work and maintain that relationship with your spouse is the capacity that you've built in those areas. In that moment, you see that it's really at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, it's about what the character that you've built, the capacity that you've built to manage your emotions, to manage relationships, to manage conflict. Those are the things that will come to your rescue in times like that. So it's very important that you start learning relational capacity, start learning how to relate with people. Stop looking for the perfect friends because they don't exist. If you're that person who always finds fault with friends shortly after meeting them or shortly after knowing them, you're like, I think she's this type of, you will never be the perfect friend. And if you choose to have that mindset and that approach towards all your relationships, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle because nobody will ever meet the mark, not to talk of passing the mark, because everybody is flawed. Okay. But now you have to know how to handle each relationship intelligently. That's the key to unlocking this. If you guys are with me, say something to me in the chat box. If you're still with me, say I'm still with you. If you're still with me, say I'm still with you. Say to me in the chat box. Thank you, Kateko. Okay. Say to me, I'm still with you in the chat box. Awesome. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Okay. Let's talk about the next capacity that we need to build. And this one is my personal fave. It's my personal fave. If you've been around me long enough, then you know that this is a message that oozes out of me all the time. And that is building capacity for purpose. Purpose. Whew. This is very delicate. The reason why this is delicate is because somehow in the midst of this excessive purpose message that is preached, and it's a very important conversation, we need to talk about purpose. We need to talk about the fact that people are created for a purpose and they need to walk in their purpose. But somewhere in the midst of that excessive preaching, we are missing the crucial part, which is the fact that purpose takes work. It's not all fun and vibes all the time. I think sometimes we just think, finding my purpose means I'm just going to walk into this ease. It's going to just flow naturally to me. And that's partly true, but that's not the complete truth. The complete truth is being able to walk in your purpose takes effort, it takes energy, it takes sacrifices. We're going to be willing to walk away from certain opportunities in order to embrace purpose. We're going to be willing to close certain doors because they don't lead us on the path that God has for us. We have to build that capacity. We have to find a way in our current lives to incorporate purpose into our daily lives. Now, a question I often get asked is, what's the difference between your calling, your purpose, and your career? Does it mean that your purpose is always different from your career? The short answer is sometimes. Sometimes your purpose can overlap with your professional endeavor. Sometimes your purpose can overlap with what you do for work, what you do to earn money. But other times, it doesn't. And if that's the case, that's not a problem. Okay. You don't have to always there could be something called the work streams, the work bracket. So there's what you do for money, there's what you do for philanthropy, there's what you do for mentorship and give and raising the next generation legacy, the different work streams. All right. And if you fall into the category where your work does not overlap with your purpose, that's not a problem. Make sure you have another work stream that is purpose. Make sure you're creating time to pour into your purpose. Make sure you're creating time to do something that is connected to your purpose, even if it's not your 9 to 5 job, even if it's not what you do, 5 days a week. And I know this is a very tricky conversation, but you see, we all don't have the same purpose, and everybody's purpose may not require full-time, work. So let me give an interesting example. If you feel like your purpose is to be a man or a woman of means, so funding organizations or financially enriching the lives of people, giving to charity, giving to less privileged, you don't necessarily have to do that as a 9 to 5. You can do some type of business that generates the money that then allows you to live out your purpose of funding crucial projects. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So that's not your 9 to 5. Your 9 to 5 might be consulting. You're a consultant, and the consulting allows you to generate the income that then enables you to help the less privileged children in Jos or in Makoko or wherever. So that's an example of your purpose not overlapping, or your calling not overlapping with your career. And that's not everybody's reality. For a person like me, though, my purpose is my career and it is my work. Everything I'm doing, ministry, coaching, mentoring, writing, speaking, all those things, that's the chief reason I was created. My purpose is my career, and I'm able to earn from it. I'm able to do it full time, and I'm able to make money from it, regardless of what scenario that you're in, because it's not a one size fits all. Regardless of what scenario that you're in, it's very important that you are intentionally living out your purpose, and you're intentionally building the capacity to do more and to reach more people when it comes to your purpose. But how you do that is you have a clear sense and understanding of your purpose and why you were created. You have a clear sense of your vision and how you want to go about serving it in the long term. Okay. It's typically something that you come to know by sitting with God and sitting with yourself. Reflection, probing, looking at your personal patterns, reflecting on your life, and just coming to know those things. Because these are some of the most critical conversations that you will need to have with your significant other. I know some of us saw a lot of women, maybe when we were growing up or even in adulthood, whose spouses didn't support what they felt passionate about, what they felt called to do. We know some women whose spouses literally dim their light. They don't give them permission to fly. And it scares us, and it makes us, just come to a hasty conclusion. Marriage is a bad idea. Not necessarily. Maybe if you took personal responsibility for how to mitigate that, you'll be in a better position. Part of how you take personal responsibility is you come to this self-awareness, personal growth. You develop yourself enough to know these things so that when a potential spouse comes around, you can have this conversation with clear articulation, clarity, and detail. And if they say, I can't deal with it, you let them go. But oftentimes, because we don't know these things, we get into the wrong kinds of partnerships, and then we act surprised that this wrong partner is not supporting us. How are they supposed to support you? They were never built for it, but you didn't know they weren't built for it because you didn't even know what you were supposed to be doing. So you couldn't have the conversation at an intelligent level. You couldn't negotiate properly. You couldn't have that you couldn't have that discussion. So this is why it's important for you to get clear in your purpose. It will influence who you pick. It's a very important conversation to have a significant other. And the other thing about purpose is, as a single person, you need to be doing this now so that when you get married, all you have to do is keep building off of what you had already started on many years ago. The challenge is trying to build from scratch as a wife or as a mom. It's incredibly challenging. So you'll be better off if you start doing it in some way and your spouse meets you doing that. Then the message is clear. This is my life. This is what I'm created for. Don't try to stop me. And if they say they're okay with it, you guys can progress with the relationship. It's very important that your spouse meets you walking in purpose in some way or the other. It's very important that your spouse meets you in your place of primary assignment, where you have been stationed by God to give expression. It's very important. It saves you a lot of explanation. You don't have to explain that much. They see for themselves what your life is about. If they like you that way, congratulations to them. You guys can proceed. So that's something that you should pay attention to prevent frustration, unfulfillment, or feeling like you're losing yourself later on in life. Sometimes after you get married, you may need to slow down or pause when it comes to purpose so that you can focus on family. But that's not the same thing as abandoning your purpose completely. That's not the same thing as, just killing it completely. Pausing, taking a break, slowing down. These are all normal phases of a woman's life, okay? That doesn't mean that you're killing your purpose, but anyone who wants you to kill that purpose completely, that's where there's a problem. So it's very important. The other thing I wanted to say is, when it comes to building capacity for purpose, I encourage you, my sisters, my friends, to think about what you can do to give back. And it doesn't have to be money. It can be volunteering, it can be mentoring people, it can be being a connector, being a bridge builder. When you think about your purpose, it's first to glorify God, and then it is to benefit humanity. Whatever it is that you identify as your purpose must have a component part to it that involves being a blessing to humanity, benefiting other people beyond yourself in some way. It must have that component for effectiveness. So whatever it is that you think you're doing as your purpose, whatever it is you feel called to do, it should contain some sort of I want to say philanthropy work, but that's probably not the right term, because we tend to think about philanthropy as just giving material things, giving money, etc. It doesn't have to be that. It has to incorporate the component of being a blessing to other people, no matter how you are a blessing to other people. We need to really ditch this consumerism mentality and mindset that is ravaging our generation. We want to take. We want to receive. We're so fattened with blessings from other people. This woman blessed me. This man blessed me. I attended a program, it blessed me. You're fattened with blessings from other people. But it doesn't bother you that you're not being the same representation of blessing to other people. It doesn't bother you that you're not finding a way to replicate that experience for someone else. You have the capacity to, you just need to be intentional about it. Okay, this consumerism mentality is very prevalent in Africa. And I know my African people will say I've come for them a lot today. We have to call these things out so that we can start seeing changes in these areas. We have to name it. We have to call it what it is. Okay, so it's very important that we do that. I have 2 more capacities to share with you for today, but so far, have you guys been learning anything? Let me pause at this point and get some feedback. Have we been learning anything? Are we on point? Okay. God says, I've been learning so much. I'm learning. Okay. I want more people to give some feedback so that I'm not just talking to myself. More feedback, guys. The teachings are really insightful. Okay, great to hear that. All right, very soon I'm going to start taking some questions. So you guys just have your questions together. I'm going to start taking some questions, and when that time comes, okay, thank you, Jama. When that time comes, I'm going to just put you guys on video. Whoever wants to speak, you raise your hands, and then I spotlight you on video, and we'll take it from there. Okay, let's talk about the last two capacities that you need to build as a single, but even as a young person in general, because we established that this is applicable to all young people who desire success in life, and relationships as well. You have to build the capacity for personal growth and development. This is second nature to me. You guys know, some of you guys know, this is the essence around which I've built my coaching work. My work as a coach is personal development and growth. It's important that at this point you're investing in your mind aggressively. I think we have a misplaced priority problem in our generation. And I'm going to speak to my sisters because we're women on this call. I think a lot of women have misplaced priorities, maybe because of the advent of social media and what is constantly flaunted in our faces. We realize that our deepest desires are for the wrong things. We're desiring expensive clothes, expensive hair. We're desiring all of these things at the expense of enriching our minds. We're carried away. The time that we're supposed to spend in enriching and growing ourselves, we're busy scrolling on social media and looking at who is having a luxury vacation in the Maldives. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but like I said, the operational word is misplaced priorities. Those things come as you grow in life and get more successful, get better at what you do. You're able to give more value, and with giving more value, you're able to exchange more money for your value. More value, the more you give value, the more you earn. And at that level, it becomes easy to do those things. But we find that, I don't know, is it what we're seeing on social media? There's so many women whose utmost obsession is just to buy fine hair and fine wig and, all those things, and the latest iPhones and the latest gadgets and devices. Ladies, invest in your mind. Eventually, the value you invest in yourself will pay for those things effortlessly. You don't need to lose sleep over it. You don't need to overpackage yourself and present yourself as what you are not. Eventually, you will grow in value to the point where the value that you command as a person can be exchanged for so much money that it pays for most of those things that you desire. So primarily, you should be investing in yourself, your personal growth, your development, attend the right conferences, travel. If you can gain international exposure, gain international exposure. It's expensive and it might not be the right time for a lot of you, but if you can afford to, go on that voyage. Interact with other young people from other countries of the world. See how they're thinking. See what they're doing, especially if you can travel to first world countries. It's an investment. It's not a luxury. You go there and you see what makes them first world countries. What do they know that we don't know in our country that distinguishes them from other countries of the world? Talk to their young people. See their work ethic. See their approach towards life. See their excellence culture, their integrity culture, their diligence culture, the things that produce those results for them. Engage their minds. If you can do it, it's an investment. That's why I said a luxury vacation in the Maldives at this point of your life might not be the best. Okay, some of you may be at that level and that's okay, but don't major on the minor. Focus on the things that will bring real-time returns to you, things that will bring that will yield powerful returns to you. Those are the things that you should be investing your time and your money and your energy on. So invest in your mind, make purposeful trips, travel, be purposeful about your trips, attend conferences, volunteer, go on personal retreats. Excuse me, go on personal retreats, read books. Oh my gosh, read books, engage with helpful resources, attend webinars like this or virtual mentoring sessions like this. This is the time to invest in yourself, identify your gifts, your strengths, your niche. This is the time to hone in on you. Double down on you, double down on what you're called to do. Become the best, or at least be on that journey to becoming the best version of you, doing what you are already doing in a much better way, with a much stronger excellence culture. You do this primarily for yourself. Tell me, is it really possible to grow the capacity in all these areas and you will not be helplessly attractive to men? Is that possible? You will be helplessly attractive to men even when you're not asking for attention. Men are giving, and that's not the ultimate. By the way, it's a nice to have, but that's not the ultimate. You first of all do it for yourself. You do it because you understand that you're a steward of everything that God has given to you, and one day you will give an account of how you stewarded your gifts, your opportunities, your platforms, the resources that were available to you in life, how you stewarded it, how you've traded it to yield more. That's the whole concept in Matthew 25 with the parable of the talents. When God gives you things, gifts, platforms, opportunities, all those things, He expects that you trade it and yield more, increase. That is what He expects. And part of how you do that is investing radically in your personal growth and development so that you can become the woman who can be and do more. This is very important. The last drum rolls, the last capacity that I want to encourage you to develop as a single and as a young person. I'll tell you after I sip my tea. One sec. Great. I needed that refresher. The last capacity you need to build is self-awareness. Self-awareness. Do you know yourself? Oh my goodness. This sounds like a basic question, but it will shock you how much lack of self-awareness is costing us as individuals, as people, as family members, as a society. Our lack of self-awareness is costing us a lot because we're not educating people on how to treat us because we don't even know, we don't understand ourselves. You've got to study you, understand you, be able to articulate who you are so that you can communicate it clearly to a potential partner. This is crucial. You can communicate this to colleagues, to people around you. You've got to know who you are, know what to expect, and know what to accept and to not accept. All of this is really hinged on self-awareness. Discover your personality type. I preach this message so much, and there are free resources online for personality tests. And if you guys are interested, I can share a very good one after this call. Know your person. These are the when you're doing your due diligence, what is called due diligence, when you're considering a potential partner, these are the things that you bring to the table. You say, look, this is my personality. I took this test. This is the result. This is who I am. Based on what you see, do you think that you can handle this person? Do you think this matches your ideal picture of a helpmate and someone that is fit for you? You have to have those conversations, because if you don't, and you're just like, okay, vibes, I like him, he's cute, he's tall, he's kind. When people start giving general reasons like that, it really concerns me. Why do you like him? He's kind, he's nice, He's really he's cheerful. It baffles me. It just shows the shallowness. There's no depth. It means you don't know the things that are crucial. You haven't understudied yourself, and because of that, you can't study another person. You don't know the right things to be looking out for. And it's good to have a nice guy, okay? It's good to have a kind guy. When push comes to shove, you're going to be living with a deeper part of him, not just the niceness, the kindness. You're going to be living with a deeper part of him, a deeper aspect of him. So you have to know whether you're even equipped, whether you're built for that to start with, whether you're the woman for that job to start with. Ladies, I'm trying my best not to raise my voice, but I'm so passionate about these things I'm talking about. Like sometimes I want to scream. I just want to scream. Can you hear me? Is this thing sinking in? Are you understanding this? But I trust that we're women of wisdom. We don't need something to be said 10 times for us to hear it. So that's very important. Study yourself, become self-aware, know your tendencies, know your triggers, know the things that don't bring out the best in you, and educate and empower your partner to prevent those situations to the best of their ability. Empower your partner to not do the things that trigger you. Sometimes they do it because they don't know. And they don't know because you haven't told them. And you haven't told them because you haven't studied your personal patterns. You haven't studied your behavior. You don't really know yourself. And to really know yourself, you have to heal from a lot of trauma. Some of us grew up with hearing all kinds of things. Oh, you are too selfish. This girl, you're too wicked. You're too. We've grown up hearing a lot of negative things about ourselves that we've internalized it. We've believed the lies, and because of that, we're embracing the persona of someone else, and that persona was created by people's public opinions and people's fault finding, that we've lost who we really are in the mix of all that noise. So sometimes the first step to self-awareness is even distinguishing, separating the wheat from the wheat from the chaff. Separate the nonsense that you heard people say to you, the negative words that you were called. Separate it from who you really are. When you find who you really are, and there will be flaws in who you really are, embrace yourself and start working on yourself. Then you empower yourself to become a better person who can have an intelligent conversation with a potential partner and let him know how best to support you on your evolution journey, because we're all evolving. The goal is to keep getting better, but they will meet you at somewhere, okay? And wherever it is that they meet you at, you need to be able to communicate in clear language how best they can support you as you grow, how best they can support you on your evolution journey. These are very, very important steps. Okay, I'm going to pause at this point and get some feedback. First of all, what stood out for you the most in today's conversation? What have you learned? What is your biggest takeaway? Anybody who wants to speak, raise up your hands and I can bring you on the screen with me so that everyone can hear you speak. Guys. Okay. Ella wants to break the ice. Let me add you to the stage.
Okay, so one thing I would like to say, which is something that came from the last point and evolved back into the other point, is in this part of self-awareness. So you said you need to be aware of yourself, and this is something that everybody has different stages in these different other phases, whether it is the emotional phase, the financial phase, the spiritual phase. Like all the various phases, we have different stages that we are in, and if we're not aware of ourselves in this different stage, then there's not going to be room for development in this phase. So for instance, before we can journey through the other phase, this final part you raised is just something that really stood out for me, where we need to be aware of who we truly are, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, because the problem or the issue with it is not general to all. So you cannot just assume that because the situation with Mr. A, okay, maybe you have three siblings and one of your siblings has a bad time calm emotionally, is a bad temper. Maybe yours might be mood swing, which is also something very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So every one of us have different phases that we are, but we are currently on, and we're struggling to do better. And
Mm-hmm.
for us to venture into a new level and into a new height of everything in our development and our growth, we must first be aware of where we are currently standing, so that we can know what's the next step we can take to become the better version we are of ourselves. So that was just
Mm-hmm.
something that actually did stand out for me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, okay, Gold wants to speak. Um, all right. Thank you, Ilu, for sharing. That was very insightful. I'm glad that you found that helpful, and I hope that the emphasis you placed on it will also re-emphasize it to everyone on this call. Hey, Gold.
Hello everyone.
Hi.
Sorry, power is out over here,
That's
so
okay.
you might not be able to see me. Okay, so thank you so much, Ma, for this insightful session. It was really eye-opening for me. After hearing Elo speak, thank you to Elo for your points. I saw that, yeah, self-awareness is really important, especially for me at this point, because I know that for the different areas we have touched tonight, like just like she said, there are stages, and you need to realize where you are at in the various areas, so that you can begin to grow from there.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that stood out for me today very much, I learned so much, but I'm just going to touch on a few things. Two of them very important. You said purpose is hard work, love is hard work. And we didn't realize that most of us look at purpose and love as if, it's just all rosy. You are just going to, the way we see it on TV, somebody working on his or her purpose, or the way we hear people say it, they don't talk about the past where they work hard to be the person that they are, or to have the relationships they have. So we feel like it's just butterflies and all of that. But I realized today that purpose is work, love is work. You have to make up your mind that you will put in the effort, and you will put in all the work you need to get to where you need to be. And then also, I can say that I'm a severe, my impulsive spending habit is quite severe. So I actually need to work on that, and I need to actually commit to saving and investing, because just like you said, I earn as I get. Once the money enters my hand, I'm just looking for, okay, what is there to spend it on, and that's how it leaves my hand. As it
Mm-hmm.
comes, it goes. So yes, and then another thing, I think I'm forgetting something. But yeah, I can't remember now. But it was really insightful. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing very practical, points to make it hit home for us. Appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. Who else wants to share? Maybe we can do one more person because of our time. Maybe we can do one more person to save time. Okay. Hi.
Hi, good evening, ladies. How are you?
Well,
Okay, my network is a bit unstable, but I wasn't sure whether to share or not.
it's okay.
But this has been very insightful. And it's something that, especially with finances, I never realized how much they impact relationships. And because it's something that we think we will deal with it later. When you're in a relationship, that's when you'll start focusing, that's when you'll start learning to share, because there'll be someone that you obviously sharing your life with.
Mhm.
And that is a danger. And also self awareness. Wow, being born in Africa, I know exactly what you mean. That we've suffered some traumas
Yeah.
and we go through a lot of things to a point that we never know how to express ourselves. And
Mhm.
when we get into relationships, we want to correct mistakes. And actually, we expect the other person to correct those mistakes for us. and heal our traumas. And for me,
Mm,
I feel like healing needs to happen way before.
mm,
And we never take that into accountability. We think it will never come to haunt us, it will never affect us. That happened in our childhood. But
mm,
then when you then get to be in a relationship, there's certain patterns that are very negative,
mm,
that just creates some tension and confusion within the relationship, and that's why
mm,
most of them never work out. For example, with me, I really struggled with expressing myself
mm,
within the context of being in a relationship because of being scared to offend someone, of being scared of losing someone. Like you just hold on, hold back, and you tell yourself, no, it will work out until you realize that it's killing you.
mm,
It's not building you in any way. So, yeah,
mm.
I learned a lot. Wow, it's been very insightful. I'm very happy about today's topic. I'll share it with my other ladies, and yeah, I love it here.
Yes, thank you so much, Ikateko. Love your insights. Thank you for making it practical and making it hit home. Thank you for sharing real life experiences because then it makes it real for us. Like we're sharing knowledge that we can apply in our daily lives, even right now. So that's, I love that very much. Thank you. Okay, I know I said one more with Nkateko, but does anyone else want to share? Just because, like, I love getting the feedback. I love hearing how it speaks to you personally, what we're sharing. Okay. Precious says, when I make some good money, I'm so happy, and the money leaves happily too. Okay. I have to work on my excitement and be dedicated, becoming a good steward. Everything becomes way attractive with money, especially the clothes and shoes. Now I can't imagine running a household and spending like that impulsively. It won't really work. Thank you. Okay, let's hear you, Precious. Hey, Precious.
Hello, Mother Regina. it's
Hi.
so it's so good to see your face again this
Good to see you
evening.
too, my love.
And so much love from my heart to you. To all
Thank
the
you.
sisters in the house, much love, kisses, hugs.
Right
I
back
straight
at
to the
you.
point. I said something about owning my self awareness. And what I meant by that is okay, let's put in the African perspective. I've always noticed that I always come off like as strong and intimidating and too forceful, but I don't see myself that way because I've identified what works for me. I know what not works, what doesn't work for me. And so when I'm having conversations with men and immediately they begin, okay, the last time I was talking to someone, I was explaining to him about how his actions were triggering me.
Mhm.
And his response to that was that I was suffering from trauma. And I was like, I don't understand what you mean by trauma. It was like, you haven't healed, you need to see a therapist. I'm like, what about triggering somebody's what about like bringing out someone's trigger and needs a psychologist or a therapist or whatever? If your actions bring out something that makes me feel uncomfortable, I think you should also want to look at your actions and see how, maybe you can walk around them or see why it bothers me so much. So we have a lot of men around that don't want to own up to a certain standard. And
Mhm.
then when you come out knowing fully what you want and saying specifically, because I had to educate him, like, you don't tell me I have a trauma, okay? We all have experiences, good or bad. And when you notice a pattern in somebody, I'm sure it rings a bell in your head like, okay, we've seen this before. Now you need to be careful. You need to tread carefully. You need to step back. This is what it is. So I'll say for women, we need to keep holding strongly to what we believe in and
Mhm.
learning as well. So I am actually learning, like, I really have to hold on to this. There's no room for bringing a substandard into my life at this point. So I have to own up to what I know about myself and what will work for me. So I
Mhm.
guess that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Amazing. It's important to to share, to have conversations like this, we need to realize that, look, no relationship is perfect. Both of us come with some type of trauma, and shaming the other person is never the solution. If you want to be with someone, both of you, it means both of you commit to growth and improvement, not shaming or blaming or name calling. That's never a good way to approach delicate issues, because it really is delicate. Um, these kinds of issues are very delicate. So, thank you so much, Precious, for sharing. I just looked at my notes and I realized that I didn't talk about professional capacity, building professional capacity. But maybe we'll pick up. We'll talk about that next time before we start or something. Okay, ladies, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you for joining on this call. Like I said, it's recorded, so if you guys are nice enough to me, I'll share the playback link. If you're nice, I will share the link so you can rewatch it, and then you can share with everyone you know, male and female, especially young people. This is a conversation that every young person needs to have with themselves, whether or not they are married, whether or not they're single, whether or not they're interested in marriage. But you guys have to be nice to me, so we'll see. We'll see. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you, ladies. It's been an awesome time, and we are going to pick up next week. Don't forget, if there's single ladies in your life, invite them to come and be a part, because says we're always nice to you. Okay, got it. Ichoma Obijako says personal growth and development capacity stood out for me. I believe it's now left for me to execute the things I learned effectively. Amazing. Great, great, great. All right, ladies, until next time, invite your single friends to come join us. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all next month. Please show up on time, and let's keep learning and growing together. Thank you, Elo. Thank you, Gold. I see all the love in the chat. Thank you, ladies. Take care, everyone.